Big up yourself.
Guys, welcome back to another video. We've got a great conversation lined up today. I have invited a very special guest on to today's conversation. Her name is Ami. We've got Ami from Be Ami in YouTube. Say hello, Ami. Welcome.
Hi.
How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're gonna be touching some sensitive topics today for you guys. And we're just gonna see where this conversation goes, and we definitely want to kind of bridge a gap between some misunderstandings and just see what can we have in common with some perspectives and what we may not.
Yeah.
So that's good. Look, I'm gonna jump right in.
Okay.
So the ultimate question is, Ami,
Doom.
can you be pro-black and in an interracial relationship?
Okay, so I feel like this is such a massive topic. Like I don't know if it's a yes or no answer.
Yeah.
Because a part of me says yes. Because that being in a relationship doesn't take away your belief. It doesn't take away what you stand for. It shouldn't. You know, if you're with somebody who is like, oh, let's say, why are you protesting or why are you doing this, then that relationship, like, that's red flags already. But then at the same time, it's like, what is being pro-black? Like, surely pro-black is about ensuring that you carry on that, you know, what's it called? Having black kids, for example, or the culture, or like everything that is to do with black, it's carrying that on. And then surely if you get in a relationship with somebody who's not black, you're just breaking that up. And then it's kind of like, how would you explain that to your kids who don't understand? You know, I'm pro-black, but mum, but there's nothing black in our house. Do you get what I mean? It's like, so I feel like a lot of people, that's where that misconception is, or that's where it's like, how do we define being pro-black? I mean, I don't personally have an issue with it, to be honest, because you can't restrict love.
Yeah, and thing is, I think you're right. Like, a lot of people do think, oh, you know, if you're pro-black, like you said, and let's say you end up with someone who's white, for example, you have mixed kids, and you're trying to teach that to your kids, and they're like, oh, but mummy or daddy's not black, so, you know, how is that incongruent with the belief system? But then, so then my question is, can you only be pro-black if you're black? Because I would argue we've got plenty of like white artists out there, or like, you know, who are very much for the black cause, who I would like call pro-black, but then, you know, an argument of, you know, within the household, and if mummy is white, then does that necessarily mean that she can't be pro-black? What do you think?
I think, like, do you know what? I feel like being pro-black, like what you were saying about there are white people, for example, who are pro-black. Like, I wouldn't define them as pro-black. I would say they stand with black people.
Okay.
But I just feel like you won't be able to be pro-black unless you're black, like unless you've actually lived being black. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like we can stand here and we can, for example, as a woman, I can stand here and I can speak for men who are raised in America, or black men who live in London and the struggles they go through. But it's not going to be the same as a black man speaking, because they living that. So somebody who's white, who wants to stand in solidarity, who wants to stand with black people, who love the culture, because there are white men out there who just love black women.
Straight up, man.
Do you get what I mean? I don't know what it is. They just love black women.
I see it all the time.
Yeah,
now.
so it's like, but I love that. But it's like, can you really, like, do you really feel what I feel as a black woman? Like, growing up, the struggles that I've had, the experiences that I have, like, I don't know if I would be able to call them pro-black. Like, I would say, okay, you can stand with black people, but it just, to me, it's not the same.
Yeah, I hear that. And I think to be fair to, you know, any white person who dates black people or whatever, they will never understand.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think it would be fair for us as black people to say you have to understand the thing, because they won't.
They won't, yeah.
Like, because I will never understand what it's like to live as a woman.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? I won't understand the struggles, the pros and cons of that, as well as you'll never understand the struggles of living as a man, right? But just because we don't understand doesn't mean we can't have the same goal.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the thing is, you know, like you're saying about, I understand about, you know, like raising your kids and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing though is, if being black is nowadays it's very much, it's not even nowadays, actually historically there's a reason why it's like this, but people who are mixed race is classed as black. Like, like Chris Brown, he's mixed race, mm-hmm. but he's classed as black, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of mixed race people are they're very much part of the black culture.
Yeah.
So even if, for example, so let's say, you know, if you had 2 kids with another white man,
yeah,
right, because they'd be mixed, they would still be classed as black.
100%, yeah.
So I guess in that sense, even if you were in a mixed household, mm-hmm. it would still be seen as a black household.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
To society though, like from the outside.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's the shock with a lot of people, especially I would say more for the white counterpart, because they will be like, I know people personally close to me that are in interracial relationship, and when the whole Black Lives Matter thing happened, they were literally shocked by people's mindsets, and like, you know, they're white friends, and like, what, like, you actually think like that, like, and you know, some people, I never used to believe this, but some people actually say that they don't see color.
That's such a lie when they say
but
that.
Like, some people, they're literally like, that opened their eyes, like, I just can't believe like people actually think like this. And then they had to go and like buy books that were like, you know, black for kids, to actually educate their children, like, when you actually go to school, like, you're actually going to be seen as black, like, you're not going to be seen as half nothing or white nothing, like, and that was a shock to some people. So to society, yes, that they are looked at or seen as black, but in the household, I suppose it depends on the person, you know, because I suppose when you marry, you don't just marry the partner. Sometimes it could be family members as well. Like, it goes deep, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
So it's kind of like, are you prepared as a black person to take on that burden of what that your partner's family would feel about you and your kids? Because, I mean, we saw the whole interview with Meghan and Harry, you know? So it goes in deep. And I think that's where people get really passionate about it, because they're like, can you really be pro-black? Like, if you actually go into detach yourself from, I know it's like, it's a bit deep, but it's like, it shouldn't really have to be that deep, because it's love, you know? And I think it's our perception of what actual love is. That's where the problem starts for me. That's what I think.
Thing is, I completely agree with actually everything you said. And, you know, like, I've been in relationships with, you know, where my girlfriend was white or whatever, and, you know, the grandparents aren't too pleased. Or, you know, even maybe the parents is a little bit questionable or whatever. Only one I'd say that I actually noticed that. But then, interesting enough, I would say the benefit of, you know, if you start a family with someone who's a different race to you, is that because you are essentially inviting each other into each other's cultures, that means that that's another white individual who then gets to fully understand, and almost they'll have to understand for the benefit of their own children. And they'll have to be able to understand how that works, because it's going to affect how their children live in today's world, in today's society. And that can then almost be another vocal point amongst, you know, the white community.
What made you realise that they had an issue with your race as well?
Well, the first time I met her grandparents, I think her grandparents weren't as welcoming to me as they were to her friends, because it was a social event. And I'd been with her at that point for longer than a year. And I'd met her grandparents, particularly her nan, I'd met her nan a few times already, and she was never warm to me, but she was warm to my girlfriend's friends, who she'd only met for the first time.
Okay.
And
they were white.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And this isn't synonymous with each other, but you know, because I went to a boarding school, and a lot of this boarding school is very expensive, so a lot of the kids there come from very wealthy families, very upper middle class, and her family was definitely upper middle class, where, you know, they're very much used to white only spaces.
Okay.
I kind of anticipated, and I think as a black person, when you especially if you're in the UK, you know, or a Western country where you might date somebody who is white, you do have to be prepared for maybe certain family members not too in favor of it. I think that's just part of it. But yeah, I think I could tell by the energy.
Okay.
I could tell by the energy. Like, nothing was said specifically, but then as well, she's of that generation, and in a bad way, like I don't hold it against her, and I don't hold it against, you know, especially the older generation. I don't hold it against them if they have views that we today would call racist.
Yeah.
And it's not an excuse for them, but I think that is because they are a product of their generation, of the times you grew up in. Because I think if that same person was born today,
they would have different views.
They would have different values.
I
and
agree.
They have different views. So that's why I don't. I didn't hold it against, and I don't hold it against them. But it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting because my personal belief is, can you be pro-black in an interracial relationship? I would say yes, you can. And the reason I say that is because, and I guess we have to define what pro-black means.
Yeah.
And pro-black for me is the prosperity of black people in today's society.
Yeah.
You know, for equal opportunity, equal chance, you know, equal rights, of course.
Yeah, in every area, really.
Yeah, exactly. And being able to, like I said, being able to prosper as individuals, but you can still have that same goal. And because the thing is, why does no one say? I guess the other question is, okay, if for example, let's say we take the stance, okay, you can't be pro-black and in an interracial relationship, right? If we take that stance, does that mean you can have white friends? And if you have white friends, does that mean you're not pro-black? Does that then mean, okay, you can now only shop at black-owned businesses? That means you ain't shopping at Sainsbury's no more.
Yeah.
You're not shopping at Waitrose.
Yeah.
You can't even shop at Lidl.
Yeah, but I get what you mean, but that's...
Like, where do we draw the line?
Yeah, but like, when you're with somebody, that's like a lifetime decision. Like, it should be permanent, right?
Should be permanent.
It should. I put the should there because, you know, we know what we like these days, but it should be permanent. So it's kind of like, because if you're gonna be like, oh, I can't have white friends, blah, 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 like you're just racist or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, when you actually decide you're going to be with somebody, you're going to have kids with that person, and that is going to be like the steps that you're going to take, then that's a critical decision. Do you know what I mean? It's like everything that you do after that then has to reflect on what you stand for. Like, that's what I feel. So I think because friends come and go, and money the same, it comes and goes. It's like people say, oh, you know, we had the whole Louis Vuitton situation that happened, but they will still go and shop there. It's like, do you know what I mean? Because people literally follow whatever's trending or whatever. So that's nothing, like that type of decision, like that's not important. Do you know what I mean? Like, those are materialistic thing, but actually being with somebody, you become one with that person. So to me, it's like, if you're gonna be with somebody who is white, what is that like, you have to actually get deep into that person. Like, what do you actually believe? Like, what do you feel about this? And have these real conversations. You know, I was listening to something similar, and I would hear people say, some people get in these relationships, and the partner, like I said, the white partner would then start to show like racist gestures to the child, you know, or
Right.
do you know what I mean? So it's like it can actually spill over, like it can actually affect, like if you actually dig deep into the root of the foundation of that household, you can actually feel like, rah, like deep down you probably fetishized over me, like you probably liked me as a black man because of the perception, or do you get what I mean? And it's like,
But I think the thing is, I think that does happen. I do agree. I do think that does and can happen. But I think at the point, if you're at the point where you're going to potentially marry this person and have kids, I don't think that's a fetish. I don't think you can say, "Oh, I've been with this person for 8-9 years now because I fetishize about them, and we've had kids because this is a fetish." Do you know what I mean? I think by that point, especially if you're going to marry and have kids, like you've chosen that person to be the mother or father of your children because of the individual, not because of not because of the color of their skin. However, I do agree in a sense that these decisions, that there are things that have to be decided, or you have to think about these things. But then my question then is that to do with race, or is that to do with culture? Because I guess my question to you is, would you feel closer to, so like, where were you born and raised? I think we already said this.
Yeah. So I was born. Oh, now my audience are gonna know this.
You can say UK, Britain. You don't have to say exact
No, I
area.
was born in Africa, right?
Okay.
In Central West Africa.
Okay.
And I was raised in the Midlands.
So what I was going to ask you is, so like you grew up in the Midlands.
Yeah.
So do you feel that you would resonate more with, you know, a white guy in the Midlands, or would you resonate more with, or rather, do you feel like you'd have more in common with a white guy who's born and raised in the Midlands, or do you feel you'd have more in common with somebody, a black Jamaican who was born and raised in Jamaica and has only been here for like 6 months?
I think maybe a black Jamaican.
You think you'd have more in common?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Because he's still a white man living in the UK.
But you've both grown up in the same culture. Whereas that Jamaican guy, he has literally been brought up in a completely different culture to you.
But I don't feel like I've got a British culture. Like, I feel like my culture is still embedded within my African upbringing. Like, I just, do you get what I mean? So to me, that's culture. Culture is where I was born and what my household like looks like, and I can't relate. Okay, I would say I can't relate as much with British culture.
Okay.
Do you get what I mean? So like, for a Jamaican guy, let's say, coming over to the UK, he's only been here for 6 months or whatever, like I feel like I would be able to, because it would be like, oh, because there's a lot of similarities. Do you know what I mean? So we'd be able to be like, okay, yeah, like I can remember that, or like it will bring me back to my foundation.
Okay, I don't disagree with you, but I am going to poke you on that.
Okay.
Right? So you said there would be a lot of similarities. Apart from skin color, what are the other similarities that you have with somebody who's born and raised in Jamaica?
Skin color. Okay, apart from skin color, values, morals, like upbringing, because he'll be fresh. Like, okay, let's say, well, I can relate, but let's say it's an African man that comes home, right? Because I don't know what the culture differences might be different with Africans and Jamaicans.
Yeah.
So if
I'm sure it is.
Which I'm sure it is. I'm struggling a little bit with because I'm like, I'm not Jamaican, but let's say if an African man comes 6 months in, and I'll be like, they definitely have a different mindset from a black man that's been born and raised here, right?
Straight up, yeah.
Or let's say the white man that's been brought here. We won't be able to relate the same way. If an African man comes here, he's been here for 6 months, I can sit with him and he can tell me all about what it was like being back home, the food, the music, the family, the morals, like everything, and I'll be able to relate more on that. The hair, like everything that defines me as a black person, I can relate to that man. A white man who's been here And, you know, I've been here since I was 9 years old, right? And I am in my early 30s now.
Yeah.
And even though I grew up here, in my house, we're still black. Like, we still very much carry our black heritage or our black, do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, it's like I don't have a problem, by the way, with I've dated white men before, but could I marry one? I don't know. That's something I would have to sit down and think about, and I'm being very honest, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I think there's a lot of things that I have to talk about and have to think about, you know. Like, I've seen interracial couples on YouTube, and it's like they do these things like, oh, my white boyfriend does my hair for the first time or sees me without, do you get what I mean? It's just like, I don't think I have to do that with my black boyfriend, you know, like, because he understands my hair texture. He understands, oh, can you get that Afro comb? He'll know what the Afro comb is. Like, do you get what I mean? So it's like, it's like a barrier. It's like a whole barrier that I need to break down to merge our relationship or to bring that understanding.
I think you're right. Like, I think there is, you know, especially things that are to do with, like, we're talking about the maintenance of the black body, right? Of course, they're not going to understand that. It's the same whether the person's white or Asian or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think, there are going to be things there might be some learning curves, right? And I completely understand in saying to want to understand certain things, but then, like I said, what we said earlier in discussion, that, you know, if you're going to be with a man, he will never understand what it's like to be a woman. But that doesn't mean that he can't cater to what your needs and desires are as a woman. So I would argue, okay, you know, if you're with a white guy, he will never understand truly what it means to be black and live as a black individual. But that doesn't mean that he can't support and cater to needs that you have in society, because society sees you as black. That he may not have to do or whatever. I think I want to touch back on culture though, because you said that, oh, you know, you very much still were brought up in a house like African culture, and I want to ask you, do you feel there's anything about you that you would feel is British? Because I would say, like, I was born and raised here in London. My family Nigerian. I was raised in a Nigerian household. So there are things about me that are definitely from my Nigerian roots. But I'm quite British in some ways as well, because I've been raised in this culture. And when I say British, I don't mean like, you know, I pledge my heart to the Queen in that sense. But British in terms of, like, you know, like when you're kids, you go, half the time what you go eat is you go get fish and chips, and you ride on your bike and you play knock down ginger, you know, all these things are like very classical, like British things. You go to the pub with the drinks. Too far, I don't go to the pub. I never really went to a pub like that. Maybe if there's a football game on, you know. So there are things about me, I'd say I'm a combination of both. I'm definitely a combination of Nigerian culture. There are things, I mean, like, literally before you came here, me and my friend, we were chowing down on some jollof rice, some chicken, some stew. So listen, man, you know, I'm up with that. But there are things about me that are British, like, I love tea.
So what would you define as British culture?
Oh, well, that's such a broad...
I know.
I think... Well, I'll be honest, part of British culture is the Western culture. So things that are very, like, culture that's very westernized is definitely part of British culture. Okay, I would say this isn't the whole answer, because to you, if personalize it to you, because I do get it, because I've been thinking about it in my head, like, you know, after I said what I said, I was like, what is even British culture? Like, so to your knowledge, of course. I would say behaviours and maybe routines, like maybe social behaviours, routines, or even wants and desires to a certain extent for some people. Behaviours that are very common within the culture you grew up in. So, like, for example, having a bar mitzvah is from the Jewish culture. Now, people can have bar mitzvahs without being Jewish, but that doesn't mean it's not part of the Jewish culture, because the Jewish culture, that's where it
originated from. Yeah,
right, exactly. And that's part of that's normal tradition and behavior. So, I would say definitely an aspect of British culture, I would say for me, is, you know, things that, behaviors that are just that are known to be for British people. Like Brits, we're known for loving our tea and eating fish and chips and going to the pub and having a drink. Yeah, we're not the only culture that does it, but
that's what. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
What about you? What would you say?
Okay, so for me, and I don't know if this is going to be ignorant in any way. If I relate it to, let's say, what I've known, like growing up, understanding African culture. When you, for example, British culture, like you said, you have your tea, your football, the pub. A lot of couples love buying houses together before they're married. British culture to me is like, there isn't, when I try and define it with African culture, for example, it's like the whole 50-50 thing. Like I feel like I discovered that more with like British culture. Like I don't know if that's a fact, like that's just in my head, like because to me, when I think about relationship in an African house, or from what I've seen, as a Nigerian men, from what I know, from what I've experienced, and they will never want, like, they want to be the man, like they're very alpha, like I don't hear that kind of talk from British culture, like in British culture, like it's very much like they are the breadwinners, they bring home the money. And so when I think about relationships and how I connect with British culture, it just seems so minimal. So to me, it's kind of like, if I get married to, for example, like a white man, like I said earlier, I know white men who love black women, and when they get into the culture, like they probably love and go to Africa a lot more than some of us black people here. And you know, their brain is literally like, I'm going in there, I'm going to invest, and I love everything about it, you know, and they'll go into like the root of Africa. Whereas when we go, who have been westernized, we just go to the holiday resorts, you know, so to me, it's kind of like, well, do I really want to sit down and do that whole 50-50 thing? Like I want that. I want an African man, like, you know, I want a man who's going to be the man. Like, do you get what I mean? And I've only seen that in westernized culture, like where you splitting everything. Like, you know, I've got family members who are in interracial relationships, and, you know, you said something earlier about, but when you get into those relationships, like you would have had those conversations. But I've known relationships where they're married, they've got kids, but the woman can't even cook African food in the house. Do you get what I mean? So it's kind of like, that still affects my culture though. Like,
so yeah, like they don't know how to cook, you said?
No, like they can't cook their food in the house. Like they can't cook African food. Like he'll either make a comment or he won't eat it. And this is a couple that's been married, they've got kids. So it's just like, yeah, in the beginning, let me tell you, I don't know, relationships these days are so messed up. Yeah, it's like people will give you pearls, like they'll lie to you, they'll make it seem like there's no issue. You get in there, then there starts being issue, you know? It's like, you just never know. Like I said, I don't have a problem with interracial relationships, because at the end of the day, for me, I still believe in love. Like in our society, we live in a messed up society, right? It's so broken, like it doesn't matter anymore. Marriage doesn't matter anymore. But I feel like it's in this westernized world and society that we live in. Is that the same in Africa? Like, not really. That westernized mentality is spilling over. I mean, it is spreading. That's because of social media. But the root of it, like, you go to Africa, family is important, education is important. Like, you don't, do you get what I mean? So the culture is still different.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you in that sense. Like, you know, my family Nigerian, and very much so, like, the fathers are the, you know, the man is the one who provides, puts the roof over their head and everything. Well, I say that, you know, my parents divorced when they were very young, but they've both, you know, my mum's that strong, independent, high-earning woman, whatever. But that is very much in Nigerian culture. But then I would argue, not that it's not part of the African culture, but I would argue that's just more traditional. Because if you go far back enough in Britain, like 60 years ago,
True,
it was the
yeah.
exact same thing. It
Yeah.
was the man was the breadwinner and the woman was the one who stayed at home, looked after the family. And it just so happens that in, you know, in different, you know, African countries or whatever, they're just still very traditional. And you said about spilling over, it's because, you know, I would argue the West is the most modern and essentially leading the way for social norms and behavior. So, you know, like, for example, like, you know, it's not illegal to be gay here. Do you know what I mean? Whereas there were some countries in the world that are very traditional where it is illegal to be gay. Do you know what I mean? So I would argue that that's a very traditional mindset. And if you find, I mean, it's hard to find someone young enough, maybe born and bred here, who still had that traditional mindset.
Yeah.
But I hear that. But I want to talk on, I want to go back to interracial couples, and I think this is going to be a question that I think a lot of people, I know a lot of guys, I've talked about this with my friends and a few of my black female friends, but I definitely want to know your thoughts. So a lot of black women have a gripe when they see a black man with a woman who is non-black, and I would even argue, say, maybe it stings a little bit more if she's white. Why do you think that is, and where does that come from? Because I don't think black men have the same gripe if they see a black woman with a white man. So where do you think that might come from?
I feel like a lot of black women feel disrespected by black men. I feel like, and so that this is just my opinion. In this world that we're living in, our generation, especially on social media, you just see so many negative thoughts and comments towards black women, and a lot of it comes from black men. I don't know if it's like black men, like high profile men, you barely see them dating black women. In sports, all of these artists, you barely see them with black women. When you look at music videos, it's only now, like recently, where you would actually see black women in their videos, for example.
What do you mean, like hip hop videos?
No, not hip hop. Not hip hop. I think it's in the UK. You see it more in the UK. You see that hate more than in the US.
Okay.
That's what I think.
Okay.
I feel like interracial dating is a higher percentage in the UK than in the US.
Yeah, I probably would say I agree. Yeah.
So like you just. There was a time where like old tweets were coming off from people, and it was a lot of hate towards black women, you know. Black women are aggressive, black women are this, and I hear a lot of conversations people have on their channels. The reason why black men don't date black women is because of this or this, or if it's single parents, the single black women, black mothers, baby mamas, always get hit, and it's just always negative shots towards black women.
Do you think that's still the case now? Because I don't disagree with you that, I mean, there have been shots against black women before, etc., and perpetuated stereotypes, right? But I don't know, maybe it's just our generation or my generation. I think, for me, I feel like especially single mothers are definitely praised and heralded, and definitely supported and seen like as an amazing thing, which it is. I'm not doubting that, but I can't remember the last time I saw, you know, a woman being slanted for being a single mother. You know, where
do you see them getting praised? Like, where?
I see all the time.
Way.
Like, they're like, yeah, she's
black
raising
baby mamas are always on the fire line. Okay, fiery line. Yes,
what
they
did they
are.
say about
all
black
of these
baby mamas?
red pill channels or whatever, they're always coming for black women.
Okay.
And
We're gonna touch on that, right? So, aside from quote unquote red pill content, I'm talking like mainstream social media. Yeah,
even on social media. I'm on Twitter all the time, and on social media I always see, every time there is a topic discussion, it's like it's rare to see. Do you know how it's so rare? Yeah, that whenever I can't remember which artist it was that came out a track about black women. Like, it's a shock that a black man like speaks well of a black woman. It shouldn't be. Like, if an artist, for example, makes a track about black women, it's like, oh my gosh, like, wow, like, that's amazing. Like, it shouldn't be a shock for black men to speak well of black women, but it is.
So I agree. It shouldn't be a shock. It shouldn't be a shock. You said about when you see these high profile artists and people when they date somebody non-black, black women feel disrespected.
Okay, not what I mean is that black women feel disrespected by black men, like, because of the derogative comments or because of the slander. I don't think black women feel protected by black men.
Sure, I would agree. And maybe it's because I'm a black man.
Speak the truth.
I would agree. However, one thing I would say that this is definitely the case in the States and here a lot of the time. That is very different, which is the Western culture, not the Nigerian culture. And for me, because I've been raised with both, I see the difference. Is that in Western society, in the Western black society, we do not value fatherhood as much as motherhood.
Okay.
And I think that when I say fatherhood, I mean we don't value the father figure being as involved in the child's life, I feel, as much as we do in motherhood. And the reason I say this difference is because in Nigerian culture, even though my parents were divorced, my mum made it a priority that I had a strong relationship with my father, and I do. But that was the Nigerian culture side, not the British culture side. Because when you go to other countries that are predominantly black, like if you go to like Ghana or even South Africa as well, there is emphasis and value on fatherhood. And that even goes back to what you were saying with your point about the man being the man. And this isn't all the time, but I've seen this a lot where and it's interesting because this started to happen where benefits came in and welfare came in, and there's definitely an aspect of systematic where especially in the States, where the system was, especially through the 60s and 70s and 80s, where the system were deliberately targeting black men and removing black men from the household. But then since then, and advances of modern technology and medicine and everything like that, a lot of time what will happen is, back then, if a woman got pregnant, if she didn't have a father figure, a man to raise the child with, then a lot of the time the child will either go to a family that they did, or they'd have another father figure. Whereas now it's like, oh, it doesn't matter if I don't have a man, I'm going to have the baby anyway. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think, especially for young boys, especially for sons, I think there are a lot of, especially in the black community, there are a lot of young black men who have been raised without strong father figures. And yes, there are some fathers, there's some people who become dads and they step out on their kids.
Yeah.
We have to hold those men responsible. However, we also have to acknowledge that there are some mothers who bring a child into the world knowing full well that they're not going to have a father figure. And it's not about fault, but I think we have to look at what are all the things that are contributing to this. I don't know how we got to this from but yeah, go on. What are your thoughts on that?
Do you think that feminism has a lot to do with that?
Yeah, I feminism isn't for black women. Feminism was created for middle class white women, because so all the things that feminism say men have an advantage in only apply to white men for everybody else. And what I mean is this, like, so like, let's say for example, let's say like the wage gap, or that men earn higher than women,
Yeah.
right? if you're a white woman, yeah, you're going to say that to your white male counterpart, right? But as a black man, as a white woman, you earn more than me.
Yeah.
So the things you say I have an advantage of because I'm a man are not true.
To me,
actually, 90% of the things you say as a white woman saying that men have advantage of, you as a white woman have an advantage over me as a black man. Public perception, preferation and favoritism, how much you earn. So, and what I think feminism, because black women have favored or gone towards feminism, that has held them back even more, because feminism doesn't actually apply to them. It doesn't. That's my thoughts anyway.
Do you know what? I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I feel like a lot of black women have actually tried to tap into that and have actually tried to take on that feminist mindset. And like you said, like, it doesn't favor you either way, because still proportionately we still have the most single motherhood out of all the other races. You know, it's like we're still gonna be at the bottom of the barrel, like regardless of whether you try and stand and be like, I'm a strong black woman, or I can do this all by myself, I don't need a man, and all of these things. Like, that is all what is fed into us. And by the way, I think that it is a problem, you know, what you said earlier, that about a woman having that mentality that I can just raise a child on my own and I don't need a man. I think it's toxic, and I think it's a problem to society. Like, I don't think that just because something becomes a social norm, I have to accept that. Like, that does not, that for me, that does not make anything better. It doesn't make anything better for that child that's going to grow up without a dad. Like, do you know, I feel like young girls need dads in their lives. They're like, that is going to be their first lover. That is going to be their first representation of what a man should be.
Absolutely.
And if you take that away, you can't do that as a woman. You can't, as much as you try to, you won't be able to fulfill that role. Like,
like
fully.
This isn't disrespect. I think this is just a reality. Only fathers can raise men.
Yeah.
And only mothers can raise women.
Yeah.
And it goes back to what we were saying earlier. If I become a father, I will never know what it's like to live as a woman.
Yeah.
How can I raise my daughter to be a woman?
Yeah.
I can't do it the same way her mother will be able to.
Yeah.
And it's the same way for sons.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because, you know, and I'll give you this example, that there are a lot of, so a boy who's raised in a single parent, will be single mother usually 90% of the time, household. So one thing, look, men and women, we have equal rights, but there are things that are different about us.
Yeah.
And because there are things that are different, there are different societal rules. And what I mean is this. How many times do we see on TV now where if a woman gets upset, angry or emotional, she slaps the guy? And we're like, oh, he just got slapped. Like,
I know.
Right. Now, if that
switch it around.
If you switch it around, yo, the police are called.
Yep.
The guy's an abuser.
Yeah.
Everything like that. Now, I personally believe there's no excuse to put your hands on someone. However, as a man, I recognize that I need to apply a different standard to myself than women do because I'm a man.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you have a young boy who's raised where that's not taught to him. Because as women, let's just being honest, women, you don't have to think about that because you're not guys.
Yeah,
There's not as much of a repercussion for you.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you're a young boy and you see that, oh, when mum's emotional, it's okay to put your hands on people. When he grows up, what's he going to do?
He's going to do that, yeah.
He's going to do that, right? Because he's almost raised to look at the world through a female lens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely playing a part. I love that we've gone on a tangent, but I do want to bring it back.
Yeah. And I do want to say that my statement does not discredit any women who's had to raise kids by themselves. Like, I know people can be sensitive out here on these streets, on these social media streets. So I want to clarify that, but it's just my opinion. Okay, like, I just don't feel like I'm not a feminist. I don't want to get paid the same as a man, to be honest. I don't want to do the same job as a man. Like, I don't have the same strength as a man.
Yeah.
So I don't care about all of that stuff. But yeah, it's just my opinion. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Put that disclaimer in.
Yeah.
And you know, I I'm going to second that. I mean, you know, like I've been in a single mother household for the
Yeah.
majority of my life. My father is very much in my life.
Yeah.
Which I'm very thankful for, of course. But yeah, I was raised. I would come under the statistic of a single parent household.
Yeah.
But I want to come back to, you know, to the issue of black men dating outside their race. Why do you think black men don't have the same level of issue when they see a black woman with, for example, a white man?
Oh, why don't they have the same issue?
I have an idea. I have my own reason why, but I want to know what you think first.
I don't know, to be honest. Like, cause for me, I feel like I just don't. I know why women feel why women feel the way they feel when they see a black man with a white woman, for example, because of the history and the background of it. But I don't think men go through that. I don't think that they have the same experiences. I feel like black women stand up for black men a lot more. I feel like black women protect.
Do you think?
Yes, I do. I feel like black women protect black men a lot more. Yes, I do.
Like who?
Like, I do. You know, and it's like if something was to happen, okay, let's say a lot of black girls do this stupidness. They date these road men, or they date these guys that they think can give them this specific lifestyle, and then they end up doing stupid things for them, you know, like oh, hide this for me, hide that for them. They end up going to prison for them, and all they think in their head is, I just need to protect that guy, I just need to do whatever. Like, women tend to do more for men in general. Okay,
Yeah.
to an extent.
I think a lot of the time, if you took a traditional sense, the woman would serve the man's purpose
More.
I agree.
Because women are naturally, like, it's embedded in us naturally
I agree.
to be nurturing.
Yes.
So anything that can reflect that in a loving sense, a woman would do, you know, like we had the example of Lani Good, for example, and Tion Wayne, you know.
Yeah.
She did this whole watch thing, and it's like when she was going through that whole episode, the majority of the time women were bashing her, you know, the whole sisterhood. That was, yeah, she done a stupid thing, but at the end of the day, this is a black woman who done a stupid thing for another black man who also done a stupid thing. Do you get what I mean? But
Are they still together?
no, they're not together.
They're not together now.
This was like a long time ago, but you know, she was going through this whole thing where she just wanted her money back, or she was in love with a black man who just completely just dashed her, and black women were there like, oh, look how stupid she looks, or nobody that I ever saw online really backed her or had her back.
Now,
you know?
I would say the woman who wants to cater to her man is the one who would have backed her, and I think not all the time, but a lot of the time when women are bashing women, it's the women, it's the stereotypical feminist women bashing another woman who is doing what she wants to serve her relationship.
I agree.
And I think that comes back to you know, how I said, you know, feminism isn't for black women. Feminism was made for the white woman. My thinking is why I think black men don't have a issue when they see black women with white men in the same way, nowhere near as much, is because when it comes to choosing a partner, I think men are less fussy. As in, women are a lot more pickier than men, right? And I think there's a reason for that. I don't think that's a bad thing. But with women, we hear the laundry list. He has to be this, he has to be this, has to be this, has to be this, right? You don't think women are picky? I think women are so much more pickier than men. So much more pickier than men. And I think part of being a black woman, part of a woman being more picky is that a lot of the time a woman will want to choose a guy who's of similar race to her.
Okay.
So I think, because I think naturally women are more pickier than men, I think that's why men
not that bothered.
If we see a black woman with a white man, we're like, all right, cool, good for her, but I'm doing my thing. Whereas a black woman's like, she got one of the good ones. She got one of the good ones, which I take offense to, because you saying by default that we're all bad. I don't like that. Do you not think women are pickier than men?
I feel like men are picky. Like, I feel like from what I've seen, a guy will sleep with whoever he wants to sleep with.
Yeah.
Right? But will he marry just anybody? He won't. Like, I feel like
True.
it would take longer for a man to actually marry somebody and actually be like, yeah, I'm gonna pick that person and wife that person. But I feel like for women, our needs are not that complicated. Okay, yeah, we're talking about a percentage of women who they're looking for a particular type of lifestyle. You know, you need to drive this car, you need to be this tall, you need to do this. Like, but that is just a percentage of girls who are following these idols and this lifestyle. That's not reality. That is a group of girls who still, they're living in a la la land. Do you get what I mean? Like, that's not reality. Like, a real woman wants somebody who's going to provide. She wants somebody who's going to protection. And it, like, the list is not that long, by the way. Like, it really isn't.
It's much longer than, look, I'm going to say this, right? One thing that I think really does showcase that women are picking the men, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I understand why. Is because you will never hear that a man settled for her. You don't ever hear that.
Okay, yeah, that which proves my point, by the way.
But you always hear that, oh, she settled for him. Right? And the reason we hear that is because, generally speaking, women have higher standards for a guy to make the cut. Whereas I do agree in a sense, like, guys, we're not just going to commit to anyone. Right? You know, women are the gatekeepers for sex, but men are the gatekeepers for relationships, right? But in terms of sexual opportunity and partners, it's not like you could easily go down the road and find a guy to have sex with as a woman because you're a woman.
True. That's
Majority of men can't do that.
Okay.
Majority of guys cannot do that. And I think, and that's because women have much higher standards than men.
Women have more power in terms of
sex, yeah.
Right? So, but for me, I feel like when a guy and a girl meets, like, and they start dating, why does it take longer for a guy to actually be like, yeah, let's make it official? For a woman, it doesn't need to take that long. 2 weeks, yep, I know I want to commit to that person. I'm going to lock off everybody else. For guys, that guy can drag you for 1 year. He's still there. Wait. Oh, yeah, man, we're coming. Like, why? 1 year? What is the problem?
So I would say, and this is why, as a dating coach, this is what I coach women. There's a way to date which leads to a relationship. And I think a lot of modern women don't know how to because, yes, we live in sexually liberated times. But when it comes to how we choose partners, it still comes from a very primal sense. But one thing I do want to say is that I think we've skipped a step here because you went from, if a guy and a girl are seeing each other, why is it she's ready to commit, but why is he not ready? You've skipped the step of who she gives opportunity to. Because the truth is, the chances are the guy that she sees that, I'm ready to commit to him within 2-3 weeks is the kind of guy who probably has a lot of options.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That you're proving my point. Like, guys, like, it takes longer for guys. Like, guys have a high, like, guys would date you because he's got all the options, but is for him to wife you, that's gonna be that's long.
But what percentage of men do you think have a lot of options? I think because women always have options. They may not have options that they like.
Yeah, I agree.
But they always have options. So how many guys, what percentage of guys do you think always have options?
I'll probably say maybe 20%. I don't know.
Exactly.
I know, not a lot. Not a lot.
Very, very small percentage. Whereas 80% of women, like, even the average woman, the average girl could go out and get a boyfriend, right? It may not be the man that she desperately wants, but she can go out there and get a boyfriend, right? And then people say, she's settled for him. The average guy can't do that. He's not even considered to the average woman because most women
don't want him.
Want the top echelon. They don't want him. So what I'm trying to say is that, okay, if we're talking like an interview, right? For women, it's like you get the interview, but it's hard for you to get the job.
Yeah.
For guys, it's like, yo, it's incredibly difficult to even get an interview. But yo, if we get that interview, it's easier for us to get the job.
Yeah.
And that's just because, and I think that's because, you know, when it comes to sexual partners, I think to get in the door, women have a lot higher standards. To get in the door for guys, you just have to find her attractive.
Yeah.
But for a woman, especially if we're talking long term, you can find a guy attractive, but if he's broke, you ain't choosing him long term.
No, for sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so
go on,
let me ask you a question, right?
Go on.
So you've dated white women and you've dated black women?
Yeah.
Okay, so did you see like a difference with both races in the relationship? Or was it just colour?
Do you mean within a relationship?
Yeah.
Or dating? As in, like, do you mean in a committed relationship, or do you mean just date? Like, if
Okay,
I'm just
but
dating?
yeah, both. Yeah, just in general.
It's generalization, but I'm gonna say dating, because in terms of relationships, like, if I get into a relationship with someone, it's because we connect amazingly well, and she brings things to the table that I really value.
Yeah.
But in terms of just dating, where, you know, maybe I was dating for a few months, honestly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll give you this example. I'm not going to say what job, because if people watch this, they'll know who I'm talking about. So I was doing this job where there was this gorgeous black girl, and there was this gorgeous white girl, right? Now, for me personally, I found the black girl more attractive. And I was getting close to kind of both of them, or whatever, as in, like, when I say getting close, like, we're on the same... I got on well with both of them, right? And it kind of expressed that I kind of found out through is that, you know, they kind of both were feeling me. I was like, oh, that's nice. Anyway, for me personally, based on... If I was just going to go purely on who I was more drawn to at first, it was definitely the black girl.
Okay.
Right? She had everything I like visually, I was like, raw. Now, there were a couple times where we would spend time together, whatever, and it was like, I don't know how to phrase this nicely, but it felt, sometimes it felt, even me giving her a compliment felt combative sometimes.
All right, okay.
And, like, what I mean is, like one, for example, I remember we were eating some jollof together at a Nigerian restaurant or something, and I made her laugh, right? And this was the first time that I'd made her properly laugh.
Okay.
Yeah? And yo, I hadn't realised she has the most gorgeous smile that I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And I was like, she was laughing. I was like, oh my, I was like, how is this the first time? I was like, you've got such a gorgeous smile. I was like, you should be showing that off more. Do you know what she said to me? She's like, are you telling me that I need to smile more?
Oh, God.
I was like...
It's a compliment.
I was like, it's a compliment. I'm complimenting you.
Oh my gosh.
Now, that kind of energy, that kind of vibe, that's what it was like when we spent time together.
Yeah.
With the white girl, if I said something like, oh my gosh, you got a good smile, she's like, oh my gosh, thanks so much. I like your arms. Do you know what I mean? Or
This
something.
is not even funny, but it's just...
So, and this is generalization, but I'm using this example as in where there was an opportunity for me. I was, you know, where I could have dated one more seriously or dated the other one.
Yeah.
And, you know, let's be honest, like, you see who you vibe with more.
Yeah.
And that was a difference between the two.
Yeah.
And it's not because... And I ended up dating the white girl for a bit.
Okay.
And the black girl, like, nothing really happened with us. And it's not because, oh, she's white and she fulfills these Western standards that a black woman can never fulfill. It wasn't that. It was the energy that that was from her was one that was more playful and, for me, nicer to be around. Because things I'll say, like, I remember I was shooting a film in Ghana for a week at one point. This was a couple of years ago. And if you've never been to Ghana and you like black women,
it's the place to be.
Ghana has some of the most beautiful women I've ever seen.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And not only are they beautiful, but they are incredibly feminine.
Okay.
they're like, I remember we were there, we were shooting, they're like, oh, can I get, can I get anything, whatever, one of them put her cloak around me or something, we started having a nice chat, she started, she was smiling at me, winking at me and all this, I felt like a king, I was like, I'm in Wakanda right now, I'm in Wakanda. And this is what I was saying earlier about culture, and I think because I think a lot of black women have fallen into the trap of adopting feminism, right? That energy that almost feels like very hostile towards men is why a lot of black men, like, I think black women think, oh, black men go for white girls because they think they're pretty or whatever. No, it's not even that. It's because I think, and it's not their fault, but a lot of black women today who have adopted feminism makes it feel like sometimes a more hostile environment in dating for a lot of men, especially for a lot of black men. And look, I'm just gonna say honest, and I don't agree in this statement, but this is a very generalized statement, and something that a lot of black artists, if they see him with a white girl or whatever, they're just like, what, Chris Rock made this joke, right? He made this joke. I'll give the heat to Chris Rock. He made the joke. He was like, he said, a white woman knows, I don't like this, but it's funny. He's like, a white woman will play her position. A black woman wants to play your position. Yeah. As a joke. Now, obviously, he said
reality,
that.
Though. That's reality, though.
Well, I feel that Western culture for the black community is raised that way. Yeah. Because black women for other cultures, they are not like that. And they're getting proposed to. Yeah. They don't have an issue with getting men. And when they go to a Western country, like you were saying earlier about, you want a man to be the man, you want him to play that traditional role or whatever, she is bringing those traditional values. So, long story short of it is, there was for me, because I've dated a black South African girl before. Okay. And she was not like black women here. Okay. Like westernized black women. Yeah. So, but that's my personal experience. I'm not saying that's for everyone, but that's my personal experience.
So do you feel then for black men that the reason why they tend to date outside of their race is because it's just jarring to always be in that combative energy, or because that's what the generalization is of black women, like it's always like they're very strong. Like I was talking to a friend about this, and they were like, it's not that, because I was saying, a lot of people, they're like, oh, black women always have attitude and this, and it was like, it's not that black women just have attitude, because every woman have attitude. The difference is, it's like black women will square up to you. Yeah. A white woman would slam the door on you, for example, and just like walk off and just be like, I'm not dealing with this. Yeah. And it's like, for black man, it's almost like, well, am I dealing with a man or am I dealing with a woman at that point? Yeah. Because they don't want to be in a house and feel like it's two men in the house.
Straight. You can't listen. And here's the thing, a lot of black women out here, they're like, I want to find my king. It's like, yeah, but you're playing the king. Yeah. Yeah. If you're playing, and this is part of the reason why, especially strong, independent black women attract weak men. Because if you're playing the man, you're playing the king, you're going to attract a queen. You're going to attract a feminine man. Hey, queen. You're going to attract a man. If you are present in dating, right? Career, different story. But in dating, if you're presenting yourself to be the leader, the masculine one, right? You're not going to attract another leader. You're going to attract a follower. And I think it's and this is something I tell, I've said to women who are coaches and stuff. Peace in a woman is the most valuable thing for a man. It's one of the most valuable things, because let's say you said about the traditional, let's say you've got your man, he's put a roof over your head, making sure you don't want for anything, whatever. He's going out, he's working hard to make sure he can provide for you and your kids and his kids, everyone together, right? When he comes home, what's peace? And this is something I've seen in my grandma with my granddad, right? Because they've been together for 60 plus years now. My granddad passed away a few years ago, but they were together for 50
Yeah.
years. Marriage. You don't hear of that nowadays.
Yeah, no.
One thing that I noticed growing up is that she knew how to choose her battles with him.
Yeah.
And there was something that maybe he decided something, whatever, and maybe she didn't disagree with it. Maybe she'll express it. He'll be like, no, this is what we're doing, and she'll go, okay, fine.
Leave it, yeah.
And this is the thing: if you want to attract a man who knows how to lead, and I'll give it that, I think a lot of modern men don't know how to lead.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of men haven't been raised how to be a man and how to lead. Mm-hmm. So I'm not just saying, oh, it's only black women, whatever, because as guys, we have a responsibility as well. Mm-hmm. But if you want a man who knows how to lead, if that is the man you want, you need to know how to follow. Mm-hmm. And part of knowing how to follow is that, if you know, it's like when they say, when the general of an army says to his lieutenants, this is where we're going, those lieutenants may disagree with his choice of plan.
So, yeah.
But guess what? He is the leader you have been trusted. So you need to trust, even if you disagree, you need to trust that he's making the right decision. Yeah. And I think a lot of black women don't trust black men to make the right decision.
Yeah. I agree. And so do you think, okay, this is going to be general, but would you say that white women are deemed more submissive than black women? In
the Western culture, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, like, it's sad because we are living in a westernized culture and society. And like you said, I don't feel like back home it's the same as here. That's why the question you asked me earlier, who would I be able to relate to more? To me, it's like, even though I've been here, but it's just not the same. Like, we're so, I don't know, but it's just not the same. And for me, I still believe that submission, for example, means it's subjective to the individual. You know, people have their own thinking about it. Yeah. But for the advancement of our culture and our society, for the black community, I don't feel like the westernized way benefits us.
It doesn't.
That's me.
It doesn't, and that's why, in the West, that's why it feels like the black family compared to the white family, the Asian family. Like East Asians, they come here, they do well, fam. Like, they come here, they dominate. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think the Western, especially the Western ideals of feminism, whatever, that doesn't help our women. I don't feel, especially with men.
And I don't think that it's built for us to prosper. Like, I don't feel like we are living in a safe place for us to prosper as the black community. So you know, it's a shame because now we're led by what we see on social media. Like, even in this country, when we're talking about the British culture, back in the days, it wasn't like that. It was firm, it was strict, you know, it was great, right? That's why they called it Great Britain. Yeah. Right? But is it great now? That's debatable. I don't think so. Yeah. But that's because of what is actually leading what is leading the young people, what is leading people's mentality. It's just social media. It's a whole load of, everybody's trying to create their own norm or their own ideologies so that they can justify their action. That's how I see it.
You're absolutely
and
right.
It's like, well, no, actually, I think this should be it because I want to do this. And so for me to be able to do this freely, I have to believe it in my head. And it's just all messed up. And it's just like, well, we can't live like that because then everything is going to be messed up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Now I want to go and I want to touch again on quote unquote being submissive.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think when a lot of women, especially black women, when they hear the word submissive, they think, oh, I'm his slave. Like, I live
for
to serve him. And I think I want to give one aspect, and you know, a black female friend who I've helped kind of coach her as well. In that you could still make the same point, but there's a way to say it.
Yeah.
Right? And I think, and one thing she was saying to me, like, I remember she was telling me about the situation with the guy, and she was like, this is what I say, whatever. I'm like, look, you can make a point, but the way you're trying to say it is very hostile.
Yeah.
An example I give is this. This isn't an example, so it's okay. But the example I give is this. It's like, okay, let's say you're with a guy in bed, right? And maybe you haven't known each other that long.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have sex, but he keeps trying it with you.
Yeah.
Right, and your Becky keeps trying it, whatever. Right, and you say, "Oh no, I'm not really fit," you know. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, I don't really do it. And then, you know, a woman might go, "Yo, I told you I don't want to do it. Like, can you relax? If you keep doing this, I'm gonna kick you the F out."
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you've made your point.
Yeah.
Right? You've made your point. You don't know him that well. You don't want to do it, but you've made your point. Okay? But that was very hostile. Very aggressive. Whereas you could say this. Look, I'm as tempted to do this as much as you are. But I like to get to know someone before I start connecting with them in this way.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to get to know you, because then we can start having real fun together.
Yeah.
You've made the point. You've set your standard. You've set your boundary. But what you've done is you've not only incentivized him to invest in you more and wait for you.
Yeah.
But now he's excited to get to know you because that's what he wants.
Yeah.
In one scenario, they keep dating, eventually happens. In another scenario, the guy goes, "Yeah, man, this one's crazy.
This is long, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that C word, crazy, boys. Hey, now if you want to get under someone's skin, just call them crazy. So I think I was talking to someone called Chengi. She's become like a mentor of mine, Chengi's World. She's like a dating coach for women. And one thing that she does with her clients is how to get back in touch with that feminine side.
Yeah.
And one thing she said, right, which is so true, is that men are strong, but women are powerful, because it is women who can influence the strong man. Because as men, we are hardwired to want to serve women. Straight up. Yo, there have been wars started because of women.
Yeah.
Wars because of women. 2 men and their armies sacrificing their lives for the love of a woman. Because women are powerful. Because naturally that's why you know, if a guy, because as guys we are hardwired to want to protect the women we care about and the women we love, right? That's why it's men who get drafted for the war, not women. That's why when the Titanic went down, it was women and children first. You know, the example I give is, if it's raining outside or whatever, and if we're on a date, you know, I take my jacket and I put it around you. I sacrifice myself to get wet to keep you dry. We're hardwired to do that. That's why if a guy walks into like a bar or something, he's like, "Yo, guys, can you help me? There's something going on. Someone's after me or whatever." I'm gonna be like, "Oh, who's this guy? He's crazy. Kick him out." If a woman does that, all the guys go, "Hey, you okay? What's wrong? Like, who's trying to get you? What's going on?" We're hardwired to want to protect and serve our women. So, and that comes from a woman being in her feminine. Right? Not squaring up to the man, right? But being like one thing Chengi said, and girls, if you're in a relationship, you can take this. I hope my girlfriend doesn't use this against me. Is if you're talking to a guy, let's say you had a dispute. If you say "I think," that's very masculine, and man goes into the logical, right? And you start to compete on a masculine level. If you say, "Oh, I feel this way," immediately a guy goes, "She feels this way. What's going on? What's wrong? I want to protect her." And I think in the West, I think our black women they've not been taught that. And I don't say taught, but I think they don't realize the value in that, especially for men. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What do you think?
But you know, like what you've literally just said, I feel like proves my point when I was saying that black women don't feel as protected from black men, for the simple fact that they perpetuate this masculine energy. And that is like, men don't like that. Like they don't like that. And
you might make a great CEO partner, but not a life partner.
And because that's the stereotype with black women, it's almost like if a black woman is coming across a certain way, and there's so many reasons why black women feel like they have to be strong for themselves and protect. And with white women, they have that more feminine energy because they've not had to have a lot of the struggles that black women have had,
not been tested, right?
And so that's why a lot of black women feel like they don't have that protection from black men, you know, maybe because black men feel like, well, you come across as you're strong enough, like, so you can go and protect yourself then. Or for white women, they're like, but look how gentle she looks, or look how sweet her voice is, you know? So it's like, so when it comes to dating, it's almost like black women feel like, well, it's harder to be picked. You know, it's harder. We have to work harder. Like, now I have to tone it down because I might come across as too much.
Yeah. And I want to make this point that I don't, because sometimes we hear, oh, if you're a strong woman, you have to weaken yourself for a man, and I don't like that, and I think that's wrong. I think it's not about weakening yourself, but it's about placing your strength in areas that he values. Because, you know, I'm going to say it's unbiased, but my grandma, who's been with my granddad for 50, 60 years, she's a strong woman. Because when he was away, she held the house down. You know, she knows how to... Listen, women run the household.
For sure.
Like, men provide the house, but women provide the home. And there is huge strength in that. That's incredibly valuable. So, and I completely agree in the fact that white women have not had to protect themselves from media or the world in the same way black women have. So I completely empathize, and I understand why a black woman feels like she has to wear a shield. So what would you say to our black sisters out there? What do you think could be the first thing they could do to kind of help realize that to let the shield down, especially around men that they want, because men, we want to protect the woman we care about.
I think the first point that I would make to that response is something you said earlier about the different cultures, like, you know, what you've experienced being with somebody who is from back home to here. Is I feel like here there has been a massive letdown within the black culture, within the home, you know. And I think that has a massive impact on how we see relationships and how we view life. Whereas back home, you are surrounded by village. You know, that's where that saying comes from. You know, you've got your aunties, your grandmas, your neighbours, women surround young girls. But you don't have that culture here. That's why women who have kids, for example, they struggle a lot more, because back home you can leave your kid with whoever, the neighbor. It becomes a family, you know. So you have that, so you can keep building yourself. But here, you're almost like you're kind of left to the government to look after you, but they don't care about you like that. You know, you rely on the benefits, you rely on all of that stuff, but that is not built for us to progress. And so for me, I feel like we as black women have to, first of all, kind of lift that burden off of our shoulder and understand that it's a part of what is being put in us. Like, it's not our fault, kind of thing. Like, it's not your fault as a black woman, first of all. It's not something that you should carry on. It's something that you have to identify, where has that come from. Because before you can move forward and actually treat something, you need to diagnose it. You need to know what is the root of that issue. You know, when you look at how women are back home, they're very respectful. Young girls, you know, they will wake up in the morning, they know what to do. It's not about being a slave, it's about raising the home, like you said. And that mentality, unfortunately, has been stripped off in this westernized world because of that feminist agenda. And that agenda has been brought to us to bring that destruction, you know, of the house. But who does it affect most? The black community, right? Absolutely. And that's why I loved what you said earlier about that feminist community doesn't benefit us black people. So when it comes to relationship and about being chosen for by black men, because I think ideally, would we want to be in our own community? Would we want to date our own black brothers, and would black men want to date black women? I think so.
Yeah, of course they do.
You know, but I think, okay, taking away the whole idea of love, whatever, but I think that black people do want to be together, right? But there's obviously a breakdown. There's an issue somewhere, and I think part of the issue is with women. I feel like women are the ones that are driving that issue by being aggressive, by being very strong, by it looks like, to me, it looks like I'm trying to protect myself, but to the outside world, it looks like I'm being aggressive.
Yes.
And it isn't. And it's about black men understanding where that pain is coming from.
Yes.
And actually having that communication that we've all played a part in it.
Yes, we have. Yeah, absolutely.
Before we can even move forward, because a lot of women do feel hurt by black men.
Yeah.
And I don't think if women felt like more protected by black men, I don't think they would have such a high issue with black men dating a white woman. I don't, because I feel like, do you know what? I don't feel like I have to compete with somebody who is more feminine or more softer.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, white women are looking more like black women.
Yeah.
They are.
Yo.
So do you get what I mean? So it's
Get
like,
them Scots in.
yeah. So to me, it's like, you know, when this whole melanin power came in, everybody now wants to talk about how much melanin they have. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
women. It's like black men a lot of the time criticize women for wearing weaves or whatever. Look, I'm somebody, I love wearing my makeup, I love wearing my wigs, my weave, whatever, but I don't have a problem. I can wear my braids, I can wear my natural hair, I don't care. Right? But it's almost like everything a black woman will do, she'll get criticized. Oh, you wearing weave because it's self-hate, you know, you don't like your natural hair. Nobody criticizes a white woman for getting plump lips. Nobody criticizes a white woman for injecting her bum. Like, nobody does that, but all the critics comes on a black woman. Why? Do you get what I mean? And a lot of the time it does come from black men, and so white women now feel like they can disrespect black women because black men are giving them that room to do that. So I feel like, sorry, I've gone on a tangent, but
No, I love it. Love it. Give it to us.
But to answer your question, I just feel like we as black people, we don't need the outside to tell us the problem. We know the problem, okay? And the media tells us the issue through films, through adverts, through whatever, because... and they always highlight it because it's never the black girl, it's always the light-skinned girl. That's another topic anyway. But
that's a whole nother video.
But I think as a black community, we have to open our eyes and actually admit that there is an issue. And black men, what's the part that you've played in this, and black women, what is the part that you've played in this, so that we can actually start healing, because there is a lot of healing that needs to be done.
Yo, I think if you can afford it, everyone should have therapy at least once a month.
I agree.
At least
I
once
am
a month.
pro therapy.
Absolutely. Look, we could talk here for hours.
I know.
But you have a life, and you have a beautiful baby girl that you need to get back to. Where can we find you?
On social media, my YouTube channel, Be Ami, and Instagram, Be Ami, Snapchat. I'm not that active on Facebook, but mainly my YouTube, really. I'm on there pretty much every day.
Sick. Guys, you definitely want to check out Biami. She gives, as you've already seen, she gives great nuanced perspectives, and, you know, in terms of what's going on, how that affects us, and what we can do to move forward. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, it's been really
We've
good.
got to get you back at some point. This girl's too valuable. Sure. Okay?
For sure, sure.
So, yeah, thank you for tuning in, guys, and I will see you in the next video.
Thank you.
How?